Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.
Hello, welcome to Blood Red Podcast, coming to you live from Liverpool City Centre this afternoon on what is transfer deadline day. Always a eventful, sometimes less eventful day in the football calendar. Joined by Paul Gorst and Ian Doyle today. But before we get to the transfers, gentlemen, Liverpool played a game at the weekend and against Newcastle United. Very impressive game, I'd say. Won by 4-1, and it felt like it was a step in the right direction, really, Ian, after the struggles of the past few weeks and months, shall we say.
Well, it was a step in the right direction in the sense that they actually won a Premier League game in the calendar year, because they've not previously in the 5, wasn't it? There was the 4 draws and then the defeat to Bournemouth. And the first half hour was a bit interesting, where Newcastle had a lot of the ball and had an awful lot of corners, but never really looked like they were ever going to... I know they hit the post with the free kick, but you can't really count that as a chance as such. But you never really looked like they were ever going to do anything until they actually did, when they scored. And obviously, for anybody who's been watching Liverpool this season, I think that was their first shot on target. And I also think it was Anthony Gordon's first goal in open play in the Premier League for more than a year. Yeah. So when it fell to him, you just knew, well, this is clearly going to go in. And there was, for a very brief second, that kind of sense of, this is just going to be the same old story. But then by half-time, it was 2-1, and then by the end, Liverpool won 4-1 and could have won about 6 or 7. And the reason for that is because two things. I think three things. The first thing is that Newcastle didn't just put everybody behind the ball, which, as a Champions League team, you wouldn't expect them to do that coming to play at Anfield. The second thing is that the crowd were properly up for it. And I think it's going on the back of the Qarabag game in midweek, where they finally got to see some goals, and they saw Enterprise in play again, Champions League team who probably thought they had to go for it a little bit. And I know Qarabag weren't particularly great and are probably better than that. But Newcastle, they decided to go for it a little bit. But the other thing is that the fact that you had Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz both playing exceptionally well, and then a lot of the other players kind of took inspiration from that. Certainly, look at someone like Cody Gakpo, who did better than of late. Even, I've had conversations with some people about Mohamed Salah, basically saying some people thought he was absolutely dreadful because he kept on running into Lewis Hall. But what you'd say on that is that he kept on running into him.
I think he got better as it went on.
And he kept on running it, and he kept on doing it, and then he ends up getting his assist. Yeah. And that only comes from the fact that Ekitike's got the goals and Wirtz has done what he's done in the first half as well by assisting that first goal. So you could see that the crowd were buying into it. That was the main thing, my main take from it. And I wrote about this yesterday, and some people obviously didn't read it because they thought it was having a go at fans, and it was the complete opposite, actually. It was
all about the headline, really, wasn't it? I think
it was, yeah. You can tell that people just don't click on it and read it. You should do, really, because they get to read excellent prose by one of us three. Yeah. So it would be worth their efforts. Just like it's worth their effort listening to me trying on about it. But the crowd bought into it. You could sense that, and the players responded to it. And I know a lot of this season has been the players haven't given the crowd enough to get worked up. And I think in the 10 minutes before half-time, with the Ekitike's first goal, particularly his second goal, which was a great goal, you kind of saw that. I think the ref probably helped a little bit. He didn't have a particularly great game. Although it was by no means the worst refereeing performance I've seen at all this season. But it was just the little things. And there's always, when Newcastle play against Liverpool, there's always that little bit of edge, even without the Isak stuff. Obviously, Ekitike was a big target for them in the summer. Liverpool took him away from them. And, Eddie Howard said before the game, he's a good player. We have to keep an eye on him. And his players just didn't, basically. And he proved exactly what Eddie Howe was talking about. So the only negative would be... Was there a negative? I was getting my games mixed up. Jeremy Frimpong was injured the game before, wasn't he? Yeah. So in fact, there was no negatives.
Jeremy Frimpong was conspicuous by his absence.
He was, yeah.
It was something didn't play,
They're all kind of merged into one, aren't they? And then, of course, you have the story of Kanata.
Yeah, that was lovely at the end,
Yeah. That was nice to see, wasn't it? And it showed sort of his standing in the group, the fact that everyone just, as soon as he scored, Alisson was on the scene, wasn't he, running from his own goal line to
and he played well anyway, and he played really well anyway.
Yeah, he played really well, yeah. One of the best performances he's had for a while, really. And yeah, great night all round. There was a statistic after the Qarabag game where Wirtz and Ekitike have linked up for 5 goals, assists by one and a goal by the other, and that was the most since Steven Gerrard and Michael Owen by 2 players who were of that age, the youngest duo. and they linked up again, obviously, on Saturday, so they've surpassed that now. And I think it's something like Ray Houghton and Peter Beardsley. Do you have to go back that far? So they are really starting to show a really interesting partnership, which bodes well for the long term, because Wirtz is only 22 and Ekitike is only 23. But also this idea that when you get Isak back into the mix as well, and maybe you've still got Mo Salah next season, it's starting to shape up a little bit. Like, you can sort of see what the plan has been, which hasn't always been apparent, really, has it? Certainly in the last month or so, I know I have probably more than anyone. I've been sort of banging my head against the wall, just looking to see Liverpool attack with a bit of intent and a bit of an idea. And I mean, I think it's obvious now when teams look to open up against Liverpool, they do have the quality to break them down, to pick the locks. And if you are naive enough to do that, then Liverpool more often than not will probably win the games. And I think that's why it bodes well for the Champions League, really. So as soon as Newcastle came to play a little bit, like Doyle says, that they did frustrate and they did take the time over certain things. And I know the ball wasn't in play very long at all. And I wasn't at the game Saturday, I was watching in a bar, but I was just getting annoyed by how little football was actually breaking out. Every so it was just like, taking the time over free kicks, throw-ins, the ball just...
There seemed to be a real...
wasn't in play.
They set their stall out with set pieces, didn't they? Because I was noting it down for a piece. I think they had three corners in the first 7 minutes, and it was up to 7 by half an hour. And it was almost, they were playing for these, and the free kicks around the edge of the box as well.
Yeah.
You got the sense that they thought, this is our... you look at Dan Burn, the Carabao Cup final, that this is our way we can punish them. But for Liverpool it felt like Liverpool got through that and then they conceded the goal. But But I mean, ultimately, to come back the way they did and lead by half time, that was crucial. Yeah,
from Newcastle's perspective, it was the right way to go about it. I guess it was just frustrating to watch, wasn't it? As a spectator, just looking to see a bit of football break out. But I mean, it was encouraging, wasn't it, to see such dynamism really in the final third. I thought Cody Gakpo played well. Wirtz has really come into his own the last sort of 2 months or so now, actually, probably since the West Ham game that we were at the end of November. He's been really good. Ekitike is just, what a player Liverpool have got there. 15 goals now for the season, and all seems right with the world. But Liverpool have got to put in a bit of a sequence of results now, a sequence of wins. It's no good harping about an unbeaten record when, 5 of them are draws or whatever. They've got to go and win now the next 2, 3, 4. Obviously, it's going to be difficult with Manchester City to come and whatever else, but they need to start getting some wins on the board because they're currently third in a bit of a 3-team mini league, aren't they, with Chelsea and United? So yeah, it was encouraging. It was probably the best league performance of the season, I'd suggest. And I think with Wirtz and Ekitike now, you're starting to see some real. I mean, Ekitike's been really good all season, but those two linking up, you can sort of see an exciting long-term future at the top end of the pitch. Yeah,
we won't do too much on the game because I think people are going to be tuning in for the latest transfer news that you're going to give us. But just on Ekitike, those 2 minutes where it goes from 1-0 to 2-1, he was electric, wasn't he? In the second goal, very very Torres-esque from the Chelsea goal on Torres' debut. Bit of those sort of vibes. I mean, I feel like we're saying it every week, but he's really embraced the role that he's now got, hasn't he? And in another world we would have been talking about Isak going into this game, but he's taken that shirt and it was just a shame he didn't get his hat trick. He had that chance at the start of the second half as well.
I haven't seen the replay.
The easiest one.
Nowhere near. Miles away. 9 in 12 now, isn't it? Which for a team who, until the last 2 or 3 weeks, have had trouble scoring. I mean, I used my advanced mathematics and worked out that Liverpool had scored 20 goals.
You told me this the other night.
20 goals in the last 6 games. And in the previous 16, they'd scored 19, which does kind of tell you. I know a little bit of that's to do with the fixture list. They played Barnsley in the FA Cup.
But Slot said, didn't he, before the Burnley game that they'd been working on.
Well, you could
essentially
tell, even though they didn't win that game, they had loads of chances. They could easily have won that game.
Do you think that shift with playing Wirtz behind the 3 is helping with that?
Well, it gives them a bit more people to aim at, doesn't it? And I think, they played 4-2-2-2-2-2-2, didn't they, against Marseille, wasn't it?
Marseille and
Bournemouth, wasn't it? Yeah, and they scored 5 goals in those 2 games. I know we can talk about the defending against Bournemouth. That's slightly different. But since Slot came out, wasn't it, before the Carabao game and said we need to improve in both boxes if we're going to do anything. If we do, he reckons we've got a chance, as in Liverpool have got a chance of winning something. or certainly making a success of the season, then that, 10 goals and 1 conceded in 2 games. I know they were both at home, but you can't really quibble too much about that. And I think you're right in the sense that things are coming together. It's interesting to see what happens now that Szoboszlai probably might have to play right back, or when he's not going to be playing right back, because then it's like, well, who's going to drop out the team? Because they've all kind of contributed lately. Even McAllister, who's been a bit hit and miss, he scored twice, didn't he, against Karabakh? He could have had a hat-trick. And he's another one who kind of, I think, like Gravenberch on Saturday, they both kind of grew into the game. Second half, they were good. I mean, just on McAllister, I do wish he'd stop falling over, though. I mean, I put a tweet out on it as partly as a bit of a joke, but also meaning it, saying that, in a season where there's been quite a lot of comedy from Liverpool, there's probably nothing funnier than seeing McAllister's miraculous recoveries every time he goes down. But because the irony is that the one time that he did actually get put down was against United, and then he doesn't, and then the referee just completely ignores it, and then they score, and then in the final, and the thing is, in the final analysis of the season, when it comes down to it, if Liverpool miss out to Man United by a couple of points, it will come down to that game. Yeah. So, bear that in mind. But overall, Liverpool look a lot brighter attacking, whether they're playing against a low block, or in the case of Newcastle, they didn't really have a low block. At one point, they just didn't have anyone in the second goal.
No block?
Anyone around. It was weird.
I thought their team...
Where they all disappeared to.
I thought their team looked odd when I saw it before the game, because I know they were missing Bruno Guimaraes, who's a big player for them.
Well, they're missing him, Joe Linton and Lewis Miley went in midfield, so they're always a bit stretched.
It felt like Tonali was going to be having to do a lot of work when you saw their team, and it felt a bit like that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, yeah. But, fair play to Liverpool. They've taken advantage of it, haven't they? How many times have you seen they play teams where they've got a number of injuries and Liverpool still don't take advantage? Look at that Chelsea game in October that we were at. I don't think they had any senior defenders starting the game, did they? And Liverpool still...
And then they had injuries during the game, didn't they?
Yeah,
as well?
yeah.
And then by the same token, Liverpool had loads of injuries, so tough.
It happens,
yeah.
But it was good. I mean, you look at, obviously, Wirtz, where he's getting his joy in the central areas. Scores from Salah's cutback, doesn't he? Central area, sets up Ekitike by picking her up in that sort of area and drifting into the box. So that was essentially what they've had in mind for him all season. They just haven't been able to do it for a number of reasons, really. They getting played through too easily when he was one of a midfield 3. He's drifted out on the left to try and make them a bit more compact in central areas, and he's done okay there, so they've kept him there. But I think this is ultimately where they'd like to play him, with a midfield behind him, and then give him the platform to go and do stuff. And certainly, on Saturday, it was just a bit of a glimpse into what he's going to be able to do for the next few years, hopefully.
There's an awful lot of people who should have done an awful lot better, who have been made to look an awful lot stupid in the last couple of months, because they are the ones who are quite happy to write off Wirtz.
Do you think anyone actually wrote him off, though?
Judging from those emails we get from the betting websites with former players, sending us stuff, they are very much.
Honestly, I do just think it was just, the engagement baiting stuff. I don't actually think anyone was actually.
These days, isn't it?
Because all we got is just, huge names in German football coming out to defend them, saying
who'd seen him, what he can do.
But I don't actually remember anyone really saying that
our
he's
own
not going to be able
eyes,
to
and
cut
we all
it.
thought exactly the same thing as well. Anyway, there was just a couple of games where you thought, he's been bounced off the ball a little bit easier. There. But that's definitely not been an issue for months now.
I noticed there's a physical difference now. I think he looks a bit fitter and stronger. He looks like he can last the 90 minutes a bit more.
Now the argument could be, isn't it incredible how quickly he's adapted to English football? Like, we're still only like 23, 24 Premier League games in for what he would hope is going to be at least a 5-year career at Liverpool, and for the last 10, he's been excellent.
No, he has. We'll finish off on the game then, just with the wider picture. You mentioned Man United there. You mentioned Chelsea. Interesting weekend in the kind of top 4-5 race, if you like. Aston Villa lost at home to Brentford, which has kind of moved things up a little bit. Everyone else won. City drew, yeah. If you're going to put them in that, I think
we have to now, because if Liverpool beat them next week, then how many points do they get?
Brought
4
back into
or 5? It's not many, is it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet's right there. I can have a look. But
go on then.
I will do that in a second. But as I do,
you ask him.
How do you see the top 4/5 race going, Paul? Whilst I look at the table.
Yeah, I mean, last weekend was tough, wasn't it? Because it saw a proper change in that little mini league. Like I say, Liverpool were top of it, and then they've dropped to the bottom of it. Big result for Chelsea. 2 goals down. Terrible first half. Come back and that probably galvanises them a bit more than had they just won 2-0 or whatever. United, again, it was always going to be how do they play and perform when they're against the team where they're expected to dominate the ball and create the chances? Because, even when they were in the doldrums, really, they've always sort of at least showed up a little bit for the big games, haven't they? So, huge victories against Arsenal and Man City. But then Fulham at home, how are you going to be able to counteract that? And to be fair to them, they've come away with a win, haven't they? So,
they threw it away and then they won it.
Yeah, fortunate as well with the offside.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this before in the office that United have been kind of low-key fortunate quite a lot of times this season, even the Liverpool game.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're probably in the best run that they've had for what? Probably since Ten Hag was doing quite well with them, and that's gone back, 2-3 years now. So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, it can all change, can't it? I still think Liverpool should have enough to keep the consistency, keep the levels that they're at, and they should have enough to get in there, whether that's 4th or 5th. But it's a real battle now, isn't it? A few weeks ago it looked like it was going to be relatively comfortable, and Liverpool mightn't have pulled up any trees, but they should have been okay. But now, on the back of that Bournemouth defeat, where Chelsea and United win that same weekend, it's going to be a real battle now, and I think that they will do it, but it's not going to be straightforward.
More maths. By the way, it's 5 points if they beat City.
I'm looking at it right now.
Liverpool obviously 1 defeat in 16 in all competitions. United 3 in, I've already forgotten what I was counted up. It's either 17 or 19. And Chelsea won the last 4 in all competitions, haven't they? So all 3 of them are in decent nick. Whereas you look at Aston Villa, who have fallen away.
Injuries as well.
Yeah.
The Villa team sort of shocked me a little bit.
And then you've
Harvey
got
Elliott getting a game.
Tammy Abraham gone straight in, starting up front.
Then you got Man City, who seem to just be drawing all their games at the moment. And you got, I mean, if Arsenal, I've said this basically the first week, haven't I? If Arsenal don't win the league, they should disband as a club, and now they definitely should disband as a club and give up.
I'm a little bit surprised they're only 6 clear. I thought they were more than that.
They've had a few draws, haven't
because
they?
they're not very
haven't been
good.
able to take advantage.
But none of them are any good, that's what gives Liverpool hope, because for 2 months of the season they were absolutely atrocious.
That's a really bad result for Man City, that though, especially when you're winning 2-0.
Yeah. I mean, I actually watched quite a lot of that game, and they were both. It was like, again, comedy football. I just couldn't believe how bad they were. It's probably exciting for somebody who likes rubbish football, but if you wanted any kind of quality, there wasn't really much there. Although Solanke's second goal was quite good.
Yeah, did he mean it though?
Well, yeah, because he meant it.
Behind him.
Yeah, but he meant, he means to get a little bit on it. I mean,
get something on it. Yeah.
When somebody has a shot from 35 yards and it goes into the top corner, did he mean that? It's like, I'm pretty sure he wasn't aiming for that. He was just aiming for the region of the goal. How far I can get in.
But anyway, that's enough actual football. We need to get to the thing that people are interested in, which on transfer deadline day is, of course, the latest goings on in the transfer market. It is 26 minutes.
Why are people always more interested in,
I don't know, but they
people coming rather than what they actually do on the pitch?
I mean,
what is this about?
I don't know, but it's...
What do you think it is, Paul?
It's fascinating, isn't it? The rise in the interest of players in the last, 15 years? 20 years, maybe?
And it's always been a thing, but it's not been anywhere near as much as it has been in the past.
Do you know what? Probably 10, transfer deadline day 2008, when Man City essentially got taken over.
Yeah.
As an entity, as a club, as an organisation. And then...
Was that the first one where...
deadline day? It was getting taken over on deadline day.
Yeah, roundabout.
Yeah.
Was it Robinho?
Robinho,
I think
tried to get Berbatov. And
Berbatov. There was potentially they were going to try and get Berbatov from United, but
since then it's just snowballed, hasn't it? 2011 was huge, wasn't it? With Liverpool signing Carroll and Suarez, selling Torres. And I still think some people dying out on that a little bit. 16 years ago now, 15 years ago.
I mean, the window as a whole has been incredibly dull. But given that it's...
sold it there.
Yeah. But given that it's deadline day, we've got to talk about it. And as I say, we are...
To be fair, some stuff did happen over the last 24 hours.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's what we're going to talk about. Right. So, if we can, because that's what they want to listen to. Liverpool are going to sign a defender, but he's not going to come until the summer. Are they going to sign anyone else who will be able to play for the rest of the season? It is 3:28 p.m. on deadline day.
At the moment, the answer to the second one is no.
No.
They did try with him from Sunderland.
Come on,
I'm
what's
not
his name,
falling. I'm
Ernie?
not falling.
I
down
went
that
to the
particular
trouble of. I did that thing where you can you type in, you say how to pronounce
Is
it.
he,
and I
is he
put his
saying it
name in.
himself?
No, it wasn't him. It was just
The
it
thing
was
is,
like
I
an
can't
AI voice.
I can't even remember what his name actually is.
Literal Geertruida, who played for Slot Feyenoord. You've written this, you know.
Yeah, I know,
when he was signing yesterday
Yeah,
morning.
he was in the away. He was in the away and at West Ham.
Yeah, so he'd had it looked like. Okay, we'll start with him. It looked like it was on.
He was
He
quite
wanted to
fancy going. Liverpool wanted him to take over his loan at Sunderland. He's on loan from RB Leipzig, not Zing as I always say, or right I should say. For the remainder of the season, he was keen. Leipzig were kind of okay about it. Liverpool were definitely keen, but Sunderland went, hang on, we need a player to cover for him because we're losing someone. And I think they kind of swiftly realised, we've got a game tomorrow, as in tonight. We need him. Nah. And you can understand why Sunderland did that. It was a bit of a long shot. To be fair, it was always sold as a bit of a long shot when it first emerged on Sunday morning. So that was Sunday morning. And then by Sunday, late afternoon, early evening, it was like, oh, that's not happening. And then a couple of hours later came old Jeremy.
Yeah,
Jeremy.
Another Jeremy.
Jeremy Jacquet.
We'll go to him in a second, but just so you think with Geertruida, it was always
Who, sorry?
Geertruida.
Yep.
Trouder. It was always seen as a bit of a
It was always a long
emergency,
shot. No,
but in terms of him as an addition, it was very much a loan deal. There wasn't a.
Oh, it was
there
no,
wasn't
yeah.
I mean,
he was essentially a body, wasn't he? Cover, and obviously Slot knows him from Feyenoord. He was his captain. But I mean, Sunderland were, by all accounts, you'll know more than me, Doyle. I've been off all weekend, but they were open to it, weren't they? They recognised that this was a massive opportunity for the player, so they weren't going to stand in his way.
Well, they've got the right back who takes the long throws, haven't they? So he's in the team every week.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Everyone needs one of them.
But he's only played right back. I think it's only twice. He only started twice at right back. He's mainly playing centre back and defensive midfield. So
for Sunderland.
Yeah, for Sunderland. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but Sunderland weren't necessarily saying no to it. It was almost like if we can get a cover in, then we recognise that this is huge for you. But I think it quickly became apparent that they probably left it a little bit too late. And I've got conflicting things on this because I don't necessarily think he's the answer for Liverpool defensively, because with respect to Sunderland, they are newly promoted and he's not necessarily getting a game there.
Yeah.
But he would have been additional cover at a time when Liverpool really need it. But it almost just felt a bit Ozanka back, if you know what I mean by that. It's like leave it late.
I was thinking more like a better Endo. Like it's like someone that Slot would trust a bit more, who could play it right back.
Well, Slot would obviously not know him and trust him, but it's almost like, well, this could have been an option on New Year's Day.
Yeah,
why is doing it now? And then, look, we can't do it because everything's left too late.
But we know why they didn't do it on New Year's Day. It's because Conor Bradley wasn't out for the season and Frimpong didn't pick up an injury. If that's the reason for that. I think he's a Holland international, so it's not like he's hopeless.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really comparable to Kabak and certainly not to Ben Davis.
Kabak was Turkish international, wasn't he? He was
but
getting touted for 30 million at one point.
He was only 2021, wasn't he? He was still young. Whereas 25, yeah. So it was never going to be a long-term thing. I just think it would have been.
But it was an opportunity. It would
have been okay.
Was it a market opportunity?
Yes,
a unique one.
It's only Liverpool who seems to deal in market opportunities.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't an aspirational target, though, was it?
No,
well, it was not an aspirational target. Now, me and Paul were discussing this yesterday, actually, weren't we? We said, we said quite clearly they are signing.
Yeah.
They're signing a centre back in the summer. And they already know who it is. And then lo and behold,
he emerged into our lives.
Later, yeah.
So, Jeremy Jacquet, who, I'll be honest, I was only aware of him because I'd seen him linked with Chelsea earlier in this window. And it looked as though it was a deal that was progressing with Chelsea.
The reality is most people haven't seen him play.
Yes. Chelsea have got loads of centre-backs, which Jeremy might have realised. And he's now gone, no, I'm going to Liverpool instead. We reckon 55 million plus 5, is it?
Seems to be
for
talk,
20-year-olds, 21 in the summer. Looks very good. Everyone's very excited. And it looks like a deal that Liverpool have obviously moved quickly to beat the competition to. Yeah,
so it's progressed rapidly over the weekend, hasn't it? Liverpool have nudged ahead of Chelsea, and to be fair, it probably shows a good bit of common sense from Jacquet and his representatives. I think that Chelsea's stockpiling players, and half of them go to Strasbourg, and the other half probably gets sold. No, I couldn't believe it today. Axel Disasi is going to West Ham United, having struggled at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
He signed him 2.5 years ago when he was 23, I think. And
just ruined his career.
I think they paid about £1 million an appearance for him while he's been at Chelsea. He's been surplus to requirements for a while. He was in that sort of infamous bomb squad with Raheem Sterling, and now he's moving to his second club of the season, is it? And you know, his best years have almost passed him by now because he made ultimately the mistake of opting to go to Chelsea when, you know, we could have, you know, I'm not really sure what options he would have had, but it's just almost just to encapsulate what Chelsea are at the moment, doesn't it? So, you know,
was it a disastrous
a disastrous move? Yeah. But so, you know, maybe Jacquet has looked at Disasi and players of his ilk who moved to Chelsea and not got anywhere near that first team, or the fact that they seem to have loads of centre backs as it is in and around the squad, and decided that there's more chance of him getting a game at Liverpool, where Ibu Konate may or may not be part of the squad next summer. Giovanni Leone will be on his way back from a serious long-term injury and is young and inexperienced, certainly hasn't kicked the ball in the Premier League. Joe Gomez, you know, we'll see what happens with him. There was interest from AC Milan, wasn't there, in the summer? Might have moved had Mark Gay joined. So it's an interesting time for Liverpool's centre-back department. It's going to be all change, I suspect. And the one constant will be Virgil van Dijk, who will be 35 in July. So it's Liverpool really getting the ducks in a row now at centre-back. And, you know, we were just talking before, weren't we? This is the fifth one that they've signed since August.
Yeah. Leone, obviously, we know with the injury, but a few some younger players have been added, haven't they? They've gone out and identified promising young centre backs, and they've made it a priority. Clearly,
So they got obviously more talent in Dai, haven't they? They got him in from Senegal. He played for Senegal at the Under-17 World Cup in Qatar in November. Ifeanyi Ndukwe, is it, from Austria Vienna? Yeah. He doesn't turn 18 until March, so he's joining in the summer. And they've signed the lad from Burnley as well as I can't quite pronounce his name.
He's more of an academy player though, isn't he?
Yeah.
The other two have seen more as they could be players that they could develop.
Yeah. So if you throw them three in with Leone and Jacquet either side of them, that's 5 centre backs aged between 17 and 20 in 5 months. So clearly there is a longer term vision at centre back, but you know, for all the sorts of planning that you're doing, I'd also like to see someone ready-made come into the team. Well, you know, is Jacquet there? He's only 20. Sure, he's got a huge upside, and that's why Liverpool are paying the money for him. But I'd probably like to see someone else come in alongside him in the summer.
Do we think going ahead another year that Quance is an option?
Well, he will be, yeah. I mean, Liverpool do have that option.
Then you'd be looking at it
60 million.
Quance would be about 24, possibly 25.
And he'll have 100-odd games under his belt.
And then these two would have had a season. So suddenly you've got 3 younger centre-backs, and then it's whether Van Dijk decides to stick around for another year or not, I suspect.
I think with
Gomez could easily assume the Van Dijk, but I don't think he will. With
centre-backs, it is, you know, this Jacquet is very young, and you always think, I mean, Virgil van Dijk at the age of 21 wasn't anywhere near on the trajectory of the player that he's become. So it is going to, and not all of these lads, these ones that have been added, not all of them are going to be roaring successes, but they've been decisive, haven't they? And they've moved for this player when it looked like he was going elsewhere. So I think whilst we'd all like to have seen an addition come in who can play right now, it's clearly a move that it's a market opportunity that they've seen and they've gone for it, and you know, they're getting the plaudits for it today, and you can say, yeah, fair enough. You know, it's a good move.
If you were looking ideally at which 4 centre backs you'd have and the profiles, you would prefer, if there's going to be a couple of them, they are the younger ones, and you'd want one that's kind of in the prime, and then you'd want one that's or just approaching the prime, then one that's kind of just going off the other side, maybe 29, 30, 31, because they've got a bit more experience. And if you look at Liverpool over the years, it's normally been round about that. Certainly the most successful teams, even going back to like probably not as many centre backs, but even in the 70s and 80s, they always had one that was a bit younger, one that was in the middle, and then one that was still getting towards the end. So it's that position, isn't it, where if you've got a 35-year-old striker, you'd be mildly concerned, but you're a lot less concerned if you've got a 35-year-old centre-back or a 35-year-old goalkeeper.
I think it's harder to judge defenders as well.
Yeah.
Like, you can see a clip of an attacking player that your team is signing, and you can instantly recognise what talent is. A great finish, long shots, dribbling, whatever. But defending's systemic, isn't it? You defend as a unit, as a back four, as a back five. So it's harder to say who's good and who isn't, really, if you're not watching these teams every week. So clearly, I think there has to be a little bit of an element of trust with the recruitment department, but I think Liverpool have certainly earned that, haven't they, with the players that they've signed over the last 10 years. How many genuine duds can you count? There's not many at all, is there? So clearly they feel that him and Leone are two young players worth investing the best part of 100 million in, really. 60 million and was it 26? So it's they're clearly planning for the long term. But I just, like Doyle mentions there, in terms of the profiles that you want in your squad, I feel like if Canate is to leave, and it is sort of heading towards that at this point, isn't it? You'd have to say, then I'd like to see a sort of ready-made player who's 24, 25 coming alongside them.
Yeah, and I think Saturday was a reminder, wasn't it, that for all the stuff around Canate on his day, he's a fantastic centre back.
Well, he's played in the World Cup final, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's played in the Champions League final. But he's kind of got all that experience. When he arrived at Liverpool, he wasn't particularly old. In fact, when he arrived at Liverpool, he had Gomez had got quite a few years under his belt. He had Van Dijk and Matip was there. So he was learning off those. So that is, that's what Liverpool will be looking at. I mean, I was going to say something then about the centre-backs and I completely forgot what it is. So just continue.
But I thought Canate was excellent on Saturday. One of his best games for a while.
And on circumstances around it and everything else, and very emotional at the
100%,
end.
Yeah, and do you know what? Fair play to him for realising that the team was in need of a centre back, someone to step up and put his hand up and came back from his compassionate leave. And it reminded me a little bit when I heard Slot say that, of when Canate rushed himself back last season when Gomez got injured at West Ham. Canate basically said, "Well, I'm going to have to make myself, declare myself fit." And I think he probably shared a bit too much, really, in that press conference for the Lille game, where he said he was having painkiller injections just because they had no other centre-backs. And I really think Liverpool would have liked him to reveal that. But it shows you that he's willing to go above and beyond to help the team. And I think he's become, he's a really sort of likeable character in that dressing room, isn't he? And clearly popular within the dressing room. And yeah, good on him. I hope he builds on it with more performances like Saturday, really.
I think with Jacquet, going back to him, you have to bear in mind that the reason he's not coming is because he doesn't want to.
Yeah, he wants
because
to stay there.
He wants to stay in France and help them get European qualification,
which will be good. But brings him on
exactly. Yeah. So they are in Europe at the moment, aren't they? Or was it
I don't know if they're in Europe. They're sixth at the moment, aren't they? And I think the top five get in Europe in France.
I think Lyon are not in it, are they? I can't remember why. There's a reason for it.
The Crystal Palace bloke.
Oh, John Textor.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. So looking at the window as a whole, then it was very quiet up until yesterday. But it was. I think a lot of fans perhaps went into it expecting maybe one or two. It was never going to be two, was it? Let's be honest. One to be added, who can play for the rest of the season. It's not going to turn out that way, it seems. But how do you assess the window as a whole?
I remember what I was going to say.
Oh, go on then, do that first.
Yeah, it was to do with timing.
Yeah.
And that you look at someone like Sepp Vandenberg, who had he joined 2 years later, he'd probably now be playing for Liverpool. But because of him having spent that much time learning his trade, whether it be on loan or in the under-21s or with the academy teams, is that you quite rightly went, I can't hang around any longer. So he's gone. And you could argue in other positions, possibly someone like Harry Wilson is somebody who would have been a great option for Liverpool. And I know that we were accosted, weren't we, at Bournemouth, with someone saying, so what do you think of the chances of Harry Wilson coming to Liverpool on a free transfer?
Yes.
I mean, I don't even consider it, to be honest, because he's out of contract, isn't he? So, I don't know. But yeah, that was my point. It a little bit about timing as well. And that, again, going back to Jacquet, is why Liverpool have probably gone for him. Now, don't forget, this would be, remember the generational centre-back thing? It was, was it 2 or 3 years in a row where they were trying to sign one? There was... Obviously, last season
they looked at Levi Colwill, Dean Hoyson, Lenny Yoro.
Yeah.
So they clearly had this strategy for a while, haven't they? And finally got who they feel was the man to do it, or the boy to do it in Leone. And Jacquet's not much older, is he? I think Leone is 19 now. Jacquet's only 20, but looks like he's ready to play. Well, he is playing senior football now, isn't he? Has he played 18 of their 20 games this season? Is that right? Missed two through suspension.
Missed has been suspended. Yeah, be interesting how he copes with the physicality, but then he's still only young and what. Just wait and see.
You know what the best deal of transfer window is, though, don't you?
Yes, I do. And it's a deal that we tout every single podcast.
And I just remembered I've got to say it. So of course, we're very proud to be sponsored by NordVPN, and to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, you go to nordvpn.com/bloodred, and a link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the podcast episode description box below. Going back on what I mentioned earlier, the window as a whole, we saw Andy Robertson seemingly come quite close to leaving, and then all of a sudden he was in the team, and everyone forgot that happened. We saw some quite wild links with Curtis Jones leaving. It looks as though no one's going to leave, and let's be honest, they can't really afford anyone to be leaving right now, can they?
No, the Jones thing was really interesting. It wasn't necessarily, I made some checks on Friday night, and it wasn't necessarily this is total nonsense, this. The thing that come back was, it's quite simple, really. We're not looking to let anyone leave in this window, and I think Slot pretty much said that, didn't he, before the Robertson stuff emerged. So yeah, I mean, I don't really think Liverpool would entertain letting Curtis Jones go. He's become a really important part of that midfield makeup, hasn't he? With sort of 4 players going into the 3 positions generally when everyone's fit. So yeah, that was a strange link, but one that wasn't necessarily dismissed as
He's got 18 months left
made
on
up.
his contract?
I think so, yeah. But I mean, Liverpool don't really get a say in who they're contacted by over what players in that sense.
Yeah.
So when there was talk of club-to-club contact, I think it was a case of Inter Milan bringing
Someone's
up
rag
saying,
up.
what about Curtis? No, you're okay, we want him. Okay, let's move on.
Having said that, they might not have phoned if they hadn't received some kind of encouragement.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So there is that. I mean, there's a little bit of a game possibly being played by Curtis's representatives. This is just guesswork again, but you wouldn't be surprised if that helps him bolster a little bit of an increase in his contract.
He's
important. Same for Zaboslai playing right back. You wouldn't be surprised if he went in and went, I'm playing all over the place here for you. So can I be rewarded for that? Thanks.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised that there's some movement soonish on Jones's contract front. Maybe just a little bit of a nod that just because he's a scouser doesn't mean you take him for granted as such.
Yeah,
We've seen what happens before.
Of course, he'd played against Inter Milan in the Champions League. In the 1-0.
I've noticed there's been a lot of talk in the comments about the homegrown issue as well, and that
was it from Theo.
Is that a particular favourite of his?
Oh yeah, he's the expert in homegrown. Yeah.
But we know Curtis Jones is very much homegrown because he's from around the corner. So that's another element, isn't it, to keep him around, and he's been a good player this season. You can make a very strong argument that he should be in the team ahead of the likes of McAllister. He's someone that you don't really want to be let go.
No, it's not necessarily the first reason that you sign a player, but if it ticks a box, then absolutely. And Curtis is obviously as homegrown as more than anyone in this Liverpool team. So yeah, that's something you take into account when I guess if you're thinking about his future. So yeah, I'd like to see a bit of movement on Curtis' contract situation, as I would with Zaboslai's, because he's been very vocal about it recently, hasn't he? And
he got asked about it.
The mix zone. No, but he came out. He got put up, didn't he, in the mix zone? You were in both of them, weren't you?
Yeah,
wasn't
both
me.
of them. Yeah.
Was it after?
He must just not like speaking to you. I think that's what we've learned from that.
Maybe
Saturday, wasn't it?
It was after Burnley, and it was after Newcastle, where first of all he got asked about his contract. And he's first time round he revealed that they were having talks, but kind of left it open, said you never know what can happen with football. But and then by the time it came to Saturday, he's like, well, actually, I want to stay. I'm happy here, that kind of thing. Let's hope we get it sorted. But there's not been any kind of sign of progress from when we last spoke 2 weeks ago, which isn't unusual. To be fair, you don't normally ask players every week about contracts.
No, and I think he has recognised the. I think he wants to become a leader in this Liverpool team, and doing that, part of that is you have to speak to the media. And, I think that's maybe the third or fourth time he's spoken to us this season, hasn't he? Which, probably puts him second behind Virgil, really. So I think he wants to take on the responsibilities of being a leader on and off the pitch at Liverpool, and I think he'd love a new contract personally.
Yeah,
he's got
2.5 years left on as well. So it's not like it's a.
Him and Gravenberch and McAllister all in the same boat.
Curtis is more of a priority in the sense of the actual calendar and the timing of it.
Just looking ahead towards the summer, I mean, how do you see Liverpool sort of set up transfer-wise? I mean, it's going to be a big summer again. We've just seen a big summer. It feels like it's going to be another one.
I wrote the Blood Red column on this week. It's almost like there's a lot of work building for a club who spent 450 in the summer. They probably shouldn't need this much work doing. You know, Robertson looks like he could leave, doesn't it, based on what happened with Tottenham that came and went quite briefly. What happens with Mo? That's an uncertain one, isn't it? We think Canate might leave. You know, there's a lot of areas of the pitch which will need some work doing on it, and you know, if you're going to be of Liverpool's quality, you're not going to be coming in for anything less than 50 million, really, are you? Maybe if there's a release clause here or there that they can take advantage of, but it's already shaping up like it's going to be another busy summer. So, you know, you look at it in parts, and maybe last summer was just sort of phase one of the grand sort of next stage of Liverpool. And yeah, you know, I think they need a forward. They certainly need another senior centre-back, at least for me. If Robertson goes, then they're going to need another left-back, aren't they? They're okay with the goalkeeper situation, but yes, it feels like it's quietly piling up a bit there.
I mean, it was last summer. It was sort of 5-6 sort of big sort of senior signings. I'm probably looking around that number again.
I don't think it'll be that many. I don't think it needs to be. No, I think the goalkeeper's all right. If they get Jacquet in, possibly one more centre back. So that's 1-2. They don't need any midfielders, but they might want to refresh the defensive midfield options. Depending on Endo, depends on what McAllister as well, because
that's the thing. Depending on departures,
we think something might happen, and then they definitely need a wide forward. But only just the one, because don't forget they got Isak and Ekatike, Gakpo. If Salah goes,
another year
it's that'll be entirely on Salah, I reckon. Funny enough, Fernando Morientes has spoken, which you'll be able to read on the Echo website later.
Oh.
And he's talking about, you know, maybe Salah has to accept that next season he might not be playing starting games, and he used Griezmann at Atletico Madrid as an example. That Griezmann, apart from the last couple of games where he's been injured, he's played every single game this season, but he's only started about 7 or 8 of them. But he gets minutes, and he gets a chance to have an impact, and he still feels involved, and he still gets to play in the Champions League, and he still gets to play in La Liga. And if Atletico Madrid do anything, he'll still be very much a part of that. And it's whether or not Salah accepts that, because it's either that or probably go to the Saudi Pro League. It's when he decides to do that.
I don't think it's any coincidence that Liverpool have found a bit of form with Salah coming back into the team, by the way. Even with he's only scored the one, hasn't he, of the 10 goals that you mentioned in the week. But, you know, just having him on the pitch gives defenders something else to think about. It's someone who they really have to be concerned about leaving spaces and gaps, and he just takes the attention, doesn't he? You know, you look at the assist that he gets for Wirtz, that's just because he's got the attention on him. I think is it Lewis Hall over that side, space opens up for Wirtz on the edge of the box, who sticks it away. So, you know, I think he's probably a little bit short on confidence, and I thought that just before he smashed in the free kick against Karabag. But the fact that he is just on the pitch is enough sometimes for other players to profit. So no surprise at all, Liverpool have found a bit of attacking form with Mo Salah back in the team.
No, and we'll hope he stays there and hope that form stays up. Liverpool next in action, obviously, on Sunday against Manchester City, and you can follow all the build-up to that with us. But until then, thanks very much, Ian and Paul, and enjoy the rest of your transfer deadline day.
This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.